Good evening. My name is Hadley Stevens. I'm a senior in the Nonprofit Leadership Studies program. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the opening evening of the second annual Philanthropy Week celebration, hosted by the Nonprofit Resource Center, Nonprofit Leadership Studies program, the Department of Organizational Communications, and the Arthur J. Bauernfeind College of Business and Murray State University. Philanthropy Week is a celebration of generosity, philanthropy, and civic engagement. The giving of time, talents, and treasures by the citizens of Murray and Callaway County and by the students of the Murray State University make this a wonderful community in which to live and thrive. The Nonprofit Resource Center strives to recognize and advance the historic partnerships among the public, nonprofit, and business sectors. Murray and Callaway County and Murray State University continue to play an integral role in creating and sustaining these partnerships, which will help ensure our community continues to achieve its highest potential. I'm honored to welcome and introduce to you Murray State University President, Dr. Bob Jackson. Murray State University has a long tradition of giving and philanthropy going all the way back to its founding. President Jackson sat down with Nonprofit Leadership Studies faculty member Mike Gowen to discuss this rich history and the current state and future trajectory of philanthropy and giving at Murray State University.
Dr. Jackson, thanks for joining us to help us kick off the second annual Philanthropy Week. We really appreciate your support for the center, the program, and this week especially. We find great joy in celebrating our philanthropic endeavors.
Mike, thank you, and it's good to be here, and thanks for the invitation. We appreciate it very much. And I mean, this is a time to celebrate, and philanthropy is something we all should celebrate, probably more than 1 week out of the year.
Sure. As we celebrate the centennial of Murray State, I think it's important to acknowledge that this university exists because of the generosity and philanthropy of Murray and Callaway County residents. Donations of cash and real estate totaling $117,000 were raised to win the bid to start Murray State Normal School, which is Murray State University. How's that spirit of giving and philanthropy stuck with Murray State over the last 100 years?
Well, it still exists today. It still exists in a very positive way today. But you know, going back in our history 100 years, so this is our centennial, and really you think about it, very different than a lot of colleges and universities who were founded during our period of time as normal schools, teachers' colleges. They didn't have that type of philanthropic support to begin their operations, if you will, and that's why Murray State University today, as we know it, exists in Murray. And it was because of the monies raised, $117,000 raised by Rainey T. Wells, who was a prolific fundraiser. He raised that amount of money in about 30 days. And that amount of money today would be about $1.8 million in today's dollars. So an amazing amount of money in 1922 to found this place. So I think our roots are deep in the philanthropic world, and you know, I'm proud of that.
And we still have that success.
Absolutely.
It's carried through. The university's embarked on numerous fundraising campaigns. Can you talk about some of the individual campaigns like Race or Give and Show Us How You Love It, and you know, the other specific efforts and how they support the university?
Well, there's always a number of smaller campaigns going on any university campus. Dr. Tina Bernard and the Office of Development do a wonderful job and are very creative, and I've just been amazed at some of the programs they have come up with over the last few years. But there have been initiatives for Lovett Auditorium. So Lovett Auditorium is getting a multi-million-dollar makeover to take it back to its original grandeur, and a lot of it is funded through generous donations from, we have almost 80,000 alumni around the world today, and we have very generous alums, and they support not only Lovett Auditorium and our other historic buildings, but Racers Give and programs like that are for scholarships, student scholarships. And during the pandemic, we saw a tremendous need among our students for need-based scholarships. And so these new initiatives like Racers Give, Racer Advantage programs were put in place for that very purpose, and we raised hundreds of thousands of dollars to help our students during that period of time. During that period of time, I saw, and I've been around here a long time, I came here as a student over 40 years ago, and I walked on this campus in the fall of 1981. So during my 10-year association with this university, I saw more need than any time that I've been here, of families, of students trying to help them come here and get through this great university. So that's why we established those types of programs, and there's many others. There's probably an initiative for every college and school and department going on right now at Murray State.
Well, and I think it's important to point out that that's the support that keeps students successful, especially in times where there's increased need, increased uncertainty. So I think that stability really made the difference in this pandemic. So that's
and I would add, it's last year was the best fundraising year we've had in 10 years. We raised cash and in pledges about $13.2 million. And so a tremendous year of generosity that we should celebrate at this time in regard to just giving thanks to all those friends and alumni who are faculty, our staff, our students who have participated in that giving.
Yeah,
it's a tremendous amount of money.
Certainly, and I think it translates, the community saw the same. When we see increased need, we see increased generosity, and this community is known to step up to the plate. And we saw that also with the natural disaster in Mayfield, how people stepped up to the plate when there's increased need.
This is a generous community, and it's a tremendously generous university as well, and it has been for our 100-year existence. And when the devastating storms hit Graves County was another example of that. And on this campus, for students impacted by the tornadoes and by the storms, we raised a significant amount of money to assist those students and families as well as the broader campaigns throughout this region and state. So this community, this region, this university always steps up when necessary.
Sure. I think it's like a family, like a philanthropic family, if you will, so that's interesting. The MSU Foundation recently launched a new initiative, the Women's Philanthropic Society. Could you talk more about that endeavor and what the aspirations for it are?
This was started by Dr. Tina Bernard and her staff in the Office of Development to get leading women, alum, friends, faculty, staff more engaged in philanthropic activities at the university, and it's been highly successful. And she has a lot of participants already that are stepping forward to lend their support, their time, their service to this initiative. I'm very proud of it, and again, the Office of Development for many years at Murray State's done a fantastic job.
Sure, and I think this community too acknowledge some of the very powerful philanthropic women. A lot of them come to mind. We named the Donna Herndon Award for that specific reason, to honor her philanthropic legacy. So there's quite a deep history of women philanthropists.
There are many, and they've been tremendously generous, both with their time and their talent and their treasure, and our history has shown that.
Being involved with the fundraising and philanthropic side of Murray State, can you talk about the relationships that you have with donors and alumni, and what their contributions and generosity mean to us and mean to them? Because that's one thing I think people don't always understand, is that giving is very meaningful to the person giving it away as just as much as the people receiving that gift.
Mike, there's nothing more rewarding. There's nothing that makes you feel better than to make that gift and to make a difference in whatever you're involved with, whether it's a university, whether it's your church, whether it's some other nonprofit in a community. Giving is really that lasting effect that the donor keeps for really forever, and it ties them to that institution or nonprofit very closely. And I personally, especially in this role and in previous roles I've had at this university, I stay in touch with those donors, and not only is it a responsibility, but I have personal relationships with them. Some of them I've known since I was a student here, almost 40 plus years ago, right? And so those relationships mean a lot to me personally, and I hope they mean as much to the donors. But I think that connection that they have with Murray State, it's a people connection. It's whether it's with the Office of Development, or whether it's Dr. Durr at the foundation, whether it's one of our trustees at the foundation, and whether it's with a faculty member, a beloved faculty member that a student had while here. Those relationships matter, and those relationships I think is what makes Murray State University different, and that's why this special place has prospered over the last 100 years.
Well, and I think that's important to acknowledge that the giving and philanthropy is deeply personal. And sometimes we look at just the numbers and what we can do with that money, but when you really connect to the deeper meaning of philanthropy and giving, it's personal, it's emotional. There's this connection there.
Oh, I've always thought the donor benefits more than the institution that one is giving to, and I've always thought that. I know in my own personal giving, Karen and I are both alums at this university. We enjoy giving to programs and initiatives that are important to us, and there's a great reward that comes with that.
We often joke in our classes, can giving be truly altruistic because it makes you feel so good? So you do get some reward just by how it makes you feel that you're contributing.
I think you get tremendous rewards, and yes, those gifts have transformational effects on whatever institution that one is giving to, and especially in this case Murray State University, whether you're setting up a scholarship endowment to help students into perpetuity. When you're creating an endowment, it lives forever. Whether you're helping reestablish and redo, if you will, Lovett Auditorium or Rather or one of our other historic buildings, or whether you're helping with student success or putting a new academic program in place and assisting with that, or endowed professorships, and that, I could go on and on with that list. But the institution obviously is benefiting, but the donor is benefiting, I would argue, as much, because they get to see what they're impacting, especially at Murray State.
Yeah, and I do want to take a second. We talked that you've been involved with Frankfurt and we're in session, but the state is also very supportive of endowments and philanthropy. So we really can be thankful that our legislature has played a role in incentivizing or encouraging philanthropy.
Mike, legislators have the governor and others in regard to the leadership in Frankfurt, and having once worked there, I've been able to participate on that side of the desk as well. And in the budget that is setting on the governor's desk, that will ultimately will be passed and placed into law, there is a component in that budget for an endowment matching fund that all the universities will participate in, including Murray State, and we've done that several times in Kentucky over many years. And it helps us build our endowments. It helps us stretch those scholarship dollars even further. And so, yes, those are transformational as well, and I applaud the legislators for including that in this year's budget.
Sure. Well, and the thing about endowments, you can acknowledge in times of uncertainty and pandemics, that's the stability that it makes your job a little easier. Doesn't make it easy, but it makes it a little easier.
No, it does. I mean, we're our foundation that is run by Dr. Durr and a board of trustees. And I used to, before this position, I was the president of our foundation. So there's about $180 million of assets there. inside that foundation, and many of those dollars are endowments, so they live into perpetuity. And it makes all of our jobs easier from the standpoint of knowing that those dollars are there, and those dollars are set aside for a professorship or for scholarships. We from the foundation endowments give millions of dollars, award millions of dollars of scholarships each year to our students to help them come here, stay here, be successful here, and then go on and be successful alumni. And hopefully we've educated and trained them to help when they leave here in some small way or large way, depending on their ability. And that's part of our job too, is to educate that next group, that next era of donors to this institution as well.
And I think that's part of the legacy of the Murray State. You know, it goes back to our founding and the centennial. You know, the very first question. It's a legacy that's carried itself through the years and remains just as strong as that very original gift and right. fundraising effort.
It's an important legacy, and again, I think if we could look back, if we could go forward 100 years and look back, I think we would see the same type of generous alumni and friends of this university making a difference.
Sure. Are there any other major philanthropic efforts on the horizon, or what's next? I know we're always looking forward. You can't pause.
Well, we're constantly planning and working toward what's next. And I think I'll telegraph this. You'll see a major campaign announced later this year, a centennial campaign to carry the university forward for the next many years. The last campaign we did was Hold Thy Banner High, was the title of the campaign. The campaign for the students of Murray State University, it was very successful. We raised about $72 million, and so it ended in 2012. So it's time, and we've been doing the planning for the last few years. We started pre-pandemic, so pre-March of 2020, and doing that initial work, and we'll carry that forward. But also I would like to say, Mike, a sincere thanks to our alumni and friends and donors and the faculty and staff and students, because, and I always include students. We have students who donate to this university as well, and we're so grateful in regard to that. And yes, many of them are beneficiaries of the generosity as well. Our faculty are extremely generous, our staff are extremely generous, but all of that matters, and we've got the best alumni in the world, sure. And I'm very grateful to them and their generosity and taking an interest in this place.
Yeah, and I think as a faculty member, I can speak on faculty's behalf. We're grateful as well. We know what that generosity means to us in the classroom and to us as our students have needs and support that they can find. Well, Dr. Jackson, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day. Thank you for the wonderful leadership you've shown in these uncertain times, sure. And the support of philanthropy and giving at Murray State.
I appreciate it very much. It's good to see you. As I said earlier, I haven't seen you in a while. It's good to see you, and thank you for what you do for our students here.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank
Jackson.
You. It's good to see you.
Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.